I have 6 o'clock on my watch, so I would like to welcome everyone tonight to the December USD 409 Board of Education meeting. Welcome, everyone. Our first order of business tonight is the ordering and approval of the agenda as presented. So may I have a motion?
I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Debbie. And a second? Thank you, Sean. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. It does pass unanimously. First up tonight is recognitions, and I would like to start with a heartfelt thanks for Sean, Deborah, and Diane for all their years, all the love they poured into this district and made this district amazing. Your work goes unnoticed. We're quiet, we're in the background, but you guys have really made a difference in our district, and I want to thank you so much for all that you've done. Thank you. And we will miss you terribly.
So we have a small token that you get tonight, as well as a more formal token that is on back order, and will be here for the 16th and 19th now. So I will be delivering those to you or reaching out from the bottom of my heart on behalf of every Phoenix. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Sean, for being an advocate and champion for our district. We also know that won't stop. And so we're going to rely on you to continue to bring that Phoenix pride and that Phoenix forward. Continue in your work and your business and your partnerships in the community, and we look forward to continuing those conversations and having you be a champion and a cheerleader for our district as well. So thank you.
It's certainly what I want, and I know Debbie's already talking about what she's going to do, and I'm sure Sean will be cheering for USD 409 in his way as well. And I encourage staff members to please reach out to me. I really do want to keep on judging and serving dinners or whatever it is that needs to happen. So please keep us on your, there's a volunteer that's willing to help. So what a pleasure it has been.
Will you please join me in thanking you?
All right. We also have some more recognitions, and the first one I'd like to tell you about is Hagen and Troy Phillips. And super excited to introduce you to both, theoretically, one in person. Troy and Hagen are described as two truly outstanding young men. They are students at Central, and these brothers are the kind of students who make our school brighter just by walking through the doors. And in that, Hagen and Troy are model students in every way. They're kind, they're respectful, and genuinely care about others. They bring humor, positivity, and strong communication skills to every interaction, and they treat people around them with the kind of character we hope to build in every Phoenix. So simply put, they're just great people. And in that, we're so grateful for the privilege of working with them each day, especially Central staff has a lot of really positive things to say, and they also want to extend a very heartfelt thank you not only to them, but to their mother, who's done such a great job raising two fine young men. So if I could have the Hagen family, including Mom up here, Sean is going to present to you. And then if you'll just wait up here on the side, we're going to take a group picture here in a minute. And Sean? All right. You have to share one of the fidgets with your brother or your mom because she showed up. We're going to do it here in just a minute. We have one more tonight. Tonight we're very excited to also recognize Barb Lott. Barb Lott is not a stranger to Atchison by any means, and she is truly what we call the jack of all trades in there. She's one of the brightest lights and the biggest hearts in Central staff. So with her extensive background in reading, she's helped countless students strengthen their comprehension, and I cannot wait for them to share their success with you here in a minute. Build fluency and gain the confidence they need to grow as learners. Barb's support has been life-changing, not only for our kids, but for the staff she mentors and the community that she touches. In there, through it all, Barb brings a smile, a warm spirit and a genuine love for kids that lifts their whole building. But please know her talents don't just stop there with reading. Her elective classes are a hit. In fact, I just saw a picture of a Christmas gift that a student just finished, and I was so excited because I know that's going to bring smiles in there. Whether they're sewing, exploring Christmas traditions around the world, or diving into another hands-on activity, Barb's room is always full of engagement, laughter, learning, and students who are becoming greater Phoenix family members. So Barb, thank you for everything you bring to Central. Thank you for everything you bring to 409. And Debbie is going to present to you. We're so glad you're part of our Phoenix families. All right, if we can have the Phillips family and Barb right here in the center. And then if I can get Sally and Brandy to kind of close around, maybe Debbie too in the inside. And then we'll kind of fill in here in the back. And peek around you. All the way back. Come on back. Yeah, Diane. I think I'm right
No,
there.
you're perfect.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Stay right where you are. Okay, Troy, you gotta go this way a little bit. There you go, there you go. Okay, stay right there. Except Bree, you come this way, just good.
Okay.
Okay. There we go. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
And speaking of Central, very excited.
Yes. Next up is our Central School Report with Lindsay Hansen. Looks like Barb Lotz. Awesome.
Yep, I'm gonna keep Barb up here.
So in our strategic plan, as you know, we have the 4 buckets, and I always try to highlight which buckets we're going to outline. So Central really does a great job of partnering the educational learning and opportunities for our students, as well as the community partnerships and CTE skills on it. So Lindsay, if you'll share with us.
So first of all, thank you for giving us some time. And Central is maybe the coolest place I've ever been in this district, so I'm probably biased, but I'm going to try to throw a lot at you. So please, if you have questions, I am going to cover the musical or the choir concert tonight, so you're welcome to email me if you have any questions about any of this stuff. So the whole goal, we were sitting in an admin meeting a couple weeks ago, and Ms. Batson had asked us, well, what's our goal as our district? We all know it's, building successful futures, every student, every day. She asked us to dig deeper and said, what is that? What's that mean? So this was the goal that kind of came out of that. I said, this is genius, because this is what we do every single day at Central. This idea that we graduate all kids who are either employed, are enrolled in school, or who are enlisted without remediation. And often we say, well, we're just going to graduate them, but they're not successful after they leave us. So that idea that without remediation is so crucial. So everything we're going to talk about tonight is helping every kid get to that stage. So to kick us off, we have some graduation data, which is super exciting. So our district, I know it's kind of under the board picture up there, but as a district, we're at 95.2. This was last year's data. Our graduation rate was 94.4, which is huge. We started in the 30% about 3-4 years ago, and we've worked our way up. This current year hasn't really been released yet. We have preliminary data, which it's around in the 70s, but with a small number of kids, one kid fluctuates that number a lot. So we love that data. It looks great, but it's what are we doing to make sure our kids are successful, right? So 72, that's great too, because the whole goal is to make sure our kids are leaving us prepared for life after high school. So how do we do that? Well, it starts with academics, attendance, and attitudes. And our staff has some of the most rigorous content I've ever seen. I put some pictures up here. Bill Patterson did an English project with the seniors on Warden Parks, maybe some of the richest writing, reading, thought-provoking content maybe I've seen in years, and it was phenomenal. And our kids can do it because we have high standards, but yet we help them get there. We have lots of scaffolding. We do have quite a few of our students that enter Central reading and doing math 2, 3, 4, 5 grade levels below their academic level. And even though we have high expectations, we also have amazing staff that support and scaffold along the way. So you're going to see tons of rigorous content. We also have elective programs. And not just, we don't have elective teachers at Central, but we do have teachers who are passionate about different electives. Sewing, for instance. Mr. Patterson does our bird class, and we take kids to the, what's it called? Bluffs, the bird sanctuary, kind of, well, whatever, the wildlife preserve out in Brown City. And they get some science credits. They can work on math credits, looking at the migration patterns. We took kids to the World War I Museum, and we have history credits all built in there. So it's really giving kids skills to help them become successful as well. And it's not just academics, it's within attitudes and helping them come to school more. So if it's engaging, we see more of that kids are always in her sewing classes. So we also try to give our elementary kids that opportunity. We know it starts in elementary school, and we are a K-12 building, and we have to start at that low, the younger ages, giving them experiences. So we've taken our kids out to the Hanger Museum. We've been out to the Sod House north of town where the teepee is. They've been really fun. So every quarter we typically take our kids on field trips. We come to the board office a lot so they can interact with adults and learn how to communicate and have conversations with people. And then often we do a lot of things like our senior experience, because often a lot of our kids don't get that same experience of like getting their senior photos or getting pictures taken. And really what makes Central special is it's a family, and we need every person, because every person has a niche that can support our kids. So Maddie Strattenberger takes our senior photos every year, and you can see them up here in the corner. Phenomenal. That there's 11 seniors this year. One is didn't get in there yet. We did hers late. But then they also get to honor with our honorary diplomas people that have made a difference in their lives. And that's huge, because our kids are given so much that I want to make sure they give back to the community and to the staff that gives up tons of time to support them. We also have a huge extensive IPS. So a lot of what we do is all included into what they're excited about doing after high school. So we had All Tech come in about a month ago. Great presentation. Kids were all excited. We also had some kids that might go in there and do their apprenticeship program. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. I think that was it. Okay. Next slide. Now, a part of that academic piece is showing you some data. And so this might be the first time I've actually put data up here in 3 years, partly because we didn't, it was just kind of a hodgepodge piece of data. So not that we didn't have any, but we kind of focused last year on a couple different things. This year, I really wanted to highlight our reading and math iReady scores. And that's why Barb's up here, because she's going to talk a little bit about her reading class. So there's 3 pieces of data up there. Now, I know you're going, holy moly, that's a lot of red. And it is. But remember, our kids genuinely come to us 3, 4, 5, 6 grade levels below. On a typical year, you want to see every kid meeting 100% growth, which means that if they meet 100% growth, they're gaining a year every year. So if they come to us on 3rd grade level, in a year we want them on 4th grade. Now, we'd love them 3 grade levels above, right? So if they're a 9th grader and they're 3rd grade reader, we would love them in 9th grade. But what you're seeing, though, is for reading, we have 202% growth, which means we're getting in 1 year's time 2 years worth of growth. Same with math. And if you notice, we had not one kid in the green or yellow. At the beginning of iReady, beginning of last year, and at the end, we had almost 30%. Now, some are like, some may say, oh man, that's not a lot of growth. It's huge growth for a lot of our kids. That's like the difference between being able to be successful and knowing some math skills and not knowing any math skills. And Mr. Ramey's new to us, he's in his 2nd year, and he's just kicking butt with his math skills. Lots of specific, really pinpoint focus on getting kids prepared for math. So you can see we had a 142% gain there. I just found out our 3rd grader went up 73 points today on his iReady test from first and from last time he took it. And he's not a little 3rd grader, and it was a huge celebration. That's huge. 73 points is huge. part of that is getting kids into our reading class. So anybody who's 2-3 grade levels or below, go to Barb. And I'm gonna let Barb kind of talk about what she does.
And so what I do is I pull out the Hasbro Centennial and show them for their grade level how many words per minute they ought to be able to read fluently. And so a lot of times they're very appalled that they are way that far behind. So they are then motivated to go. For some of them, they just don't like being in reading class because they lose an elective and they're motivated. I wish Troy was still here because Troy in 1 year went from 4th grade level to 8th grade level. He was motivated. He saw how far behind he was. I use a program that's called, my rate just went dead, I read Reading Rewards. It's a rewards program, one that's for kids who are a little bit behind decoding. And 2 of the authors, you probably recognize the name of Anita Archer and Vicki Vachon. When I was in Leavenworth as a vice principal, I was lucky enough to get to study with them out in Oregon. And so this was the program that they taught and we used in our school in Leavenworth. So when I was at the middle school for a year, I bought some of those books myself. I had some kids I was working with that carried them with me since I bought them, and Lindsay bought me more. So we give them the test to see where they are, what their comprehension level is, what their reading fluency level is, and then what I love about the program is it starts them where they are so that they feel like they're competent at that level and they have some confidence, and then it moves them on and on and on until they, one book that I start a lot of kids in, they start at the 4th grade level, and if they get through the 120 lessons, at the end they are at least 7th grade level. So I had kids who went from fluency levels of 91 correct words per minute to 134 correct words per minute. And that's big for kids who hated to read because they were so slow at it and they didn't like it. We focused on learning how to read for information and looking at questions first and making sure we know definition of some words before we move through all that. And hopefully that helps them when they do the iReady. So, and we tell them that. Remember, you're taking this iReady and give it everything you have because you don't want to get put in reading class. You don't need to be there. You don't want to take the spot of somebody else who really needs it. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it. I'm always excited to see how well people go. It's a celebration. Every time somebody is improved from one to the next, it's a big celebration that we've gotten that far. So it's a cool thing to do.
That's great. And then last slide, and also on the slide before you don't have to go back, but one of the things with elementary is that our new reading curriculum is magnetic reading with iReady. And Tracy Jones is our new special ed teacher at the elementary school. She's really following that curriculum with fidelity, and we're seeing some really big gains on that. It's a challenge because she has 6 different grade levels, all within that, but she's doing amazing at it. And so I think we can attribute a lot of the success to just a program that's really meeting kids where they are and really motivating them. Our 6th grader is going to go with her next semester for some corrective reading and reading words. So it should be kind of fun, see where he goes. Our last thing we really wanted to highlight is with attitudes, is our learner dispositions. We've really been focusing on what does it mean to be a good learner, and part of that is our community service elective. We decided we were going to do this. Our goal is to have every kid walk across the high school stage with 60 hours of community service so they can get a cord at graduation. And Libby is like running with this. I know you probably hear it. She's like, Lizzie, what do you get me into? And I'm like, I'm sorry. So I start it, then I leave, and she just has to take it over. She's phenomenal. Every day we do something. We go to, like Mondays, Mondays and Fridays, we're going to Medical Lodge and doing different things with them. You can see over here we have partnerships. Wednesdays, I think we go to Catholic Charities. We've been to the Marywood Garden, Project Concern, we're still working with them. The Salvation Army is in the works. They've kind of changed some things that they're doing, so we haven't really, the times don't work, so we're working on how we can do that. But right now we have over 200 hours and now that's not even, so the graph, we kind of keep a graph on our wall to show where we are. So the goal is at the end of every year, kids should have 15 hours or more, because that puts them on track to have 60 hours when they graduate as freshmen. Now, one of the graduation requirements as of right now that we've chosen for an asset is 40 hours of community service that all freshmen have to have. So this is just icing that 20 extra hours. It's going to be great. But the kids are having a really good time. We have 4 or 5 kids that will choose to go into community service every 3 weeks because we rotate our electives every 3 weeks. They love it. We love it. And so we're pretty excited with those community partnerships. It gets them out of Central. It gets them meeting new people. And it forms kind of that partnership in the community that is so needed with kids at Central. So, yeah. Oh, sure.
While I'm thrilled and grateful to have been honored, I need to say I've worked in a number of places, and this is the absolute jewel of all the places I've ever worked. The people I work with are the most amazing people. I mean, I love our leadership, and I love everybody I work with every day. So I just need for you to know.
Thank you for sharing.
Any questions or comments?
Thoughts?
I know.
So I don't know if you guys have ever tried the Dooley Center. I know they're always looking for volunteers. They really like to see youth and stuff, so.
Type that out right now. Yeah, we're looking for other options to go to. We've got a couple. One of the things our kids do is we share Georgie, who's our custodian, with the board, and it works great. It actually works really well because we have our kids once or twice a week kind of do those jobs. They take the trash out, they vacuum. So they do a lot of, it's a family. So as a family, we have to do things we don't always like to do, like vacuum. But yeah, like sometimes they don't even know how to vacuum. So we're teaching them these life skills that they may not know how to do. So yeah, but I will put the Dooley Center down. That's great. Thank you.
Well, definitely thanks for all you do for these kiddos. They're so valuable and so worth it. So thank you for carrying.
I forgot to tell you, my shirt was made by one of our juniors. And we did a 3D sculpting of this, and he's like, I don't know how he's going to get rid of it. It's supposed to be a Secret Santa gift. I don't think he's going to be able to part with it. It's very cool. It's very cool. I showed him, I said, look, I'm wearing your shirt today. That's awesome.
Well, I just want to say that I appreciate the invite to Thanksgiving dinner. It was so nice to see all the faculty that brought food in and gave these kids and their moms or dads or
Family.
brothers and sisters, family, come and join them. And it just was, I always enjoy that. That's it.
Engagement was just so visible, so.
Yeah.
Thanks for mentioning that.
Mrs. Batson, the next little sewing elective is going to be miniature squishmallows, so you could probably put in a request. And we could end up with one for you to keep in your office.
I was like my friend who writes me all the stories about the old director going into space to create me something of what the old director saw in space. It's cute. I would love that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Central staff, as a whole.
So, thank you so much. Next is our budget review of special education funding and the funding process. Oh,
We're gonna,
this
no,
is the
that's not
special
your fault.
education program.
We are gonna switch this a little bit. They're gonna kind of be doing it together, so
Awesome.
in and out in that, to kind of explain some theory, some actual numbers, and kind of go from there.
So, welcome Lori and Miss Honeywell.
Thanks. Glad to be here, and I'm actually really glad that we're following Lindsay because what you just got to hear from Central was the people, right? The staff and the students, and that's what's most important. And while it's not as fun to talk about the money and the budget, that's what we have to have behind it in order to make those great services happen. And Lindsay's great about coming and sharing positive stories with us. We appreciate that. And I always have to start off just a short soapbox that all students are general education students first. Students with disabilities need services and support, but services and support are not their identity. And so I just think that's always important to center ourselves back around that, particularly when we're thinking about funding. Because the purpose of special education funding is to supplement or to help provide for the excess cost that it might incur in order to educate a student with a disability. And there's a lot of legal tape around special education, and sometimes it drives us crazy, but we have to remember that prior to 1975, we had students and families who couldn't even walk through a school building, right? And so shout out to IDEA, 50 years this month that students have had access. So that was not that long ago, right? And so I always try to remember that as we're navigating through the complex legal issues, because those laws are there to protect kids and their access to education. So what is excess cost? So the definition would be if you take the total cost it takes to provide special education services to a student, you subtract what we would receive for regular education is what it still says in the law, but general education for students on IEPs, and then any federal aid provided. Once you subtract all of that, what's left would be defined as excess cost. And so in general with special education, there's three sources. We do have some money that we receive in federal funds, then we have state aid, and then we have our locally funded effort. So special education funding in Kansas, again, this excess cost formula is designed to determine how much to appropriate for special education state aid, which gets really confusing. It's not designed to determine how much aid individual districts should receive. So keep in mind that this is for the state as a whole, and then how they determine what is allocated to districts is a little bit different. Currently, we have a reimbursement model, so we're basically reporting expenses and then it's reimbursed. And I say currently because they've had several different committees looking at different ways to fund. There are different states that use different funding models, and you can look that up if you're interested in reading all those articles and all the work that they've come up with. But I'm not sure that there are other models that would benefit us any differently. But currently, it's a reimbursement model. And we know that by statute, state aid should equal 92% of statewide excess costs for providing special ed services. That hasn't happened since the early 2000s. There's not a whole lot we can do about that here today, so we're just going to move right on past that. Just thought it was worth reminding. So then as we're thinking about special education funding distribution, think of it as a big bucket, and all the money is in this big bucket for the whole state. And then there's 4 ways they dole it out. So the first is catastrophic. Second is Medicaid replacement, the third is transportation, and the fourth is special ed teacher state aid. And I'm sure Martha's glad she gets to hear all this today, by the way, because she's an important part of keeping track of all this on the back end. Okay, so when they're looking at funding, again, this is for the whole state of Kansas, it's the end of the year, and they're looking at what all the districts spent. The first thing coming out of that bucket is transportation. So it might be that Leavenworth had a student that they had to transport a significant way to receive services from an institution or a hospital setting. So Leavenworth is going to be reporting bigger expenses, so that's going to change the amount of transportation money coming out. So this right off the gate makes it really hard to predict what money they're going to end up giving. So transportation is the first thing that comes out of that. They do reimburse 80% of actual travel expenditures. This has to be reflected within a student's IEP. Second thing that comes out of that big statewide bucket is Medicaid replacement. And this is a little bit misleading because this is a set amount. They have $9 million per year set at the state level. And then they're looking at what students on IEPs are eligible for Medicaid services. There are other ways that we bill Medicaid, but this is one. Okay. And this does not involve us directly billing Medicaid either. Confused yet? It's great. The third way is catastrophic aid, and this was inputted in the 1994-95 school year, and this is meant to help support students with significantly costly services. So sometimes we might have students who need some medical care that we bring into the school setting, or we might need to send them to a place that has some special treatments or some special ABA therapy or something. Again, that's our last course of action, but students who have significantly costly services, that's catastrophic aid. Again, that can depend any year. Any student can move into a district or leave the state, so that can change that amount. And then fourth and finally is special teacher reimbursement. And so this is how we're reimbursed for our special ed teachers, our providers, anybody who has a specific type of licensure. And so that amount fluctuates, and KSD at the beginning of the year will say, well, we think it's going to be around this amount. Then around December, they're like, no, this amount. Then around May, no, it's going to be this amount, but we can't really be angry with them because it is a reimbursement model, and so it is constantly changing. So for example, last year, I think they started out with $33,000, And then by the end of the year, it was 29-some thousand dollars, which for a district trying to plan for these services for students makes it very, very difficult, especially when the needs of students fluctuate throughout the course of the year. So here's my example, and this is a picture of the KSDE Special Education Reimbursement Guide, State Categorical Aid. You can find this on the KSDE website, and if you want to look at it and visit about it, I'd be glad to hear your thoughts on it. But this specifies what licensure, what certification a provider has to have in order for us to get reimbursement on them. So Martha and I are really conscious about trying to get every single penny we can. Oh, this person is licensed at this, that means we can apply to get a little more there. And she's particularly good at it because she's done it just for a few years. So let's say, for example, that the state says $30,000 is the reimbursement rate for a 1.0 FTE. Remember, FTE, full-time equivalent, a full-time position. So that would mean we would receive reimbursement of $30,000 for any full-time special ed teacher. Again, that includes some other positions as referenced in this guide. And then full-time paraeducators who are dedicated to special education duties are 0.4 FTE. So in our example of 30,000, that would be 12,000. That would be a para who worked full-time, who wasn't absent, who was hired at the beginning of the year, but 12,000 is the example. And then I just put important reimbursable activities only. So these can't be someone who's hired to help with lunch or supervise. It has to be special education duties only. And so the tricky part is we're paid quarterly throughout the course of the year, but they're estimating. And so then by that final payment is when they're adjusting to the exact amount that we get reimbursed. So lots of tracking and record keeping on the back end, making sure we have licenses up to date and all that information to report. Okay, so a big question, why is the percent of excess cost covered declining in the state of Kansas for all districts, not just Atchison? Well, statewide, we have an increase in the number of students in special education. That requires additional staff and it increases the cost to provide services to those students. In the 15-16 school year, there were 82,793 students statewide who were eligible for special education. That was 16.3% of Kansas students. Then you look at the 22-23 school year, it was up to 17.9% of Kansas students. Since 2001, special education enrollment as a whole in the state is up 20%. Since 1998, the number of special ed teachers is up 25%, and then the number of paraprofessionals is up 93%, and I would say that's the number of paraprofessional positions, not necessarily positions that are filled. So those are the people and some of the money that it takes to provide these high quality services for kids. But one of my lines I say a lot that people would get tired of is we can pay the money for it now and provide the high quality services, or we can pay for it 3 years in a due process or a lawsuit, right? And we know what we want to do. We want to do it now. We want to do the right thing, and that's always what we're trying to do. So just to keep that in perspective. This is an image of our special education staffing structure, and I did this with concentric circles on purpose because you see the little heart here, students with IEPs. So anytime as a leader, when I'm looking at staffing, we're taking it back to the students, and we want to have our kids with those high quality staff members close to them. So you see here are 20.5 special ed teachers, gifted facilitator, currently 54 paras, 3 registered behavior technicians. So these are the people who are day in, day out working really closely with these kids. In this second row, we've got physical therapy, speech language path, occupational therapy. Again, they're providing needed services to students, just perhaps not every single day. In this next string, we have our school psychs, our BCBA, and then our student support specialist, again, providing great services for kids, but not necessarily on every single day being close to that student. And then out here, you've got director of special ed, and then you've got MIS clerks. So we're out here a little bit lonely, and I just illustrate that to show you that our priority really has been to keep these numbers close to those students. And there might be some holes unintentionally because of that. So as we review data and we look at compliance, if we ever find that there are things that we really need to pay attention to, we may need to adjust, do we need one of these teachers to serve as a compliance coordinator? Not an administrative position, but in lieu of a teaching position. Again, not the goal, right? Because we want to have those providers as close to the kids as possible, but it could be in the realm of possibility. I have yet to meet a district who has as much special ed staff as we do, at least in the way that we have it set up. To have a dedicated special ed teacher per grade level at most of our buildings is unheard of. People freak out when they hear that, in addition to our lowest incidence and other teachers. And we want to maintain that as much as possible. And then I did do the breakdown here. Central is 1.5 in terms of their special ed staffing. Barb's the 0.5, which we really know is like exponentially higher because of her high quality services, and she does do a few additional days, but that is technically a half-time position. All right, and then here's some numbers for your enjoyment, starting back 2015-16 school year through 23-24. I don't have 24-25 on here yet because the final special education numbers aren't completely audited yet. But this gives you an idea of our total students on IEPs, not gifted. Kansas is one of, I think, 9 states that includes gifted within special education, not funding for it, but includes it as a requirement. So then it shows you the percentage of our students with disabilities, excluding the students who are 504 only. The number of students who are gifted, which we're closer to 50 now. So interestingly enough, although our enrollment has declined, we're up in our number of students who are gifted, and that is a trend statewide. And remember that state percentage now is around 17 to 18%, so we're on the higher end of that. So here's just a couple of program highlights. I just picked a few things that are going really well. So when we look at our percentage of students K-12 with IEPs, spending time in the general education classroom, we want to look and see who is spending 80% or more of their school day in the general ed classroom. Well, we knocked that one out of the park, right around 78%. The state target for that is 71.25, so that's a huge celebration. Early childhood inclusion, we've always lagged behind, but 2 years ago this actually changed, and you would think, oh, that's because of this year with a new facility, but it's actually not. It's because of some things they put in place a few years ago. So 62.5% of our students on IEPs are spending the majority of that day with their peers, and the state target is 40.27, so that's significantly higher. Graduation rate of students with IEPs, 88.24%. State target is 82.8. We have a newly trained autism intervention team, so they're trying to do a few different things. One of the things they can offer is an educational diagnosis of autism, but even more than that, they can come in and give advice and strategies for how to help support students, which is a huge need if you talk to any other districts. We have 3 certified MANT trainers within our staff, so they're able to provide the de-escalation training and as well as the training on if you do need to restrain a student, how to do that in a safe way. And then we've hired, with your approval, some direct employees for some positions we used to contract. The registered behavior technician position has been huge. This has enabled some of our para-educators to actually take this position, which pays about $5 more than our typical para position, and they're able to get highly trained 40 hours worth of essentially techniques to help shape and mold behavior for students with autism. And we were paying $65 an hour to contract that out. And then our board certified behavior analyst, or BCBA, formerly we were doing that through an online virtual portal. She was in a different state, and that was $110 an hour. So now we have one on site. So we're looking at higher quality services as well as more prudent spend of finances. And they've really been able to get in there and help students in some really specific real-time ways. So if kids struggling, they're able to come in and help provide that support immediately instead of there being that lag time. So they're supporting staff as well as students. So our next steps, especially in terms of staffing and budgeting and all of that, is next semester we'll be forming a special ed staffing and resource review team. I don't have an acronym for that yet, but that's what the team will be. So we'll be looking at a variety of things, and typically these are things that as administrators we look at together, but this will provide an opportunity for special ed providers and teachers to have a voice in this process, because our superintendent likes to say who's the smartest person in the room? The room is the smartest person, right? The more ideas that you have, especially from those people who are in the trenches doing the work. So we'll be looking at quality of services, caseloads of providers. It might be that at one building or one grade level, we have way more needs and we need to make an adjustment there. We'll also be looking at student outcomes. So just one example, we have a great implementation of co-teaching in our district, and we have for years. So we'll be looking at that and are we getting the return on investment, so to speak? Are students making progress because of those 2 certified teachers in the classroom? Achievement data, IEP goal progress, those are just a few examples. So this is going to include voices of classified, so paraeducators will be invited to be involved in this process as well because they work so closely with kids, often closer than even our certified teachers, as well as special education teachers and other providers. So we'll have that group come together next semester. It'll be an opportunity and to provide voice and insight, and may or may not need to make any changes, but that'll be a forum for that to happen.
So that is, apparently I didn't keep up, so I apologize. In that, I want to take a minute because it's kind of the overall capture, and SPED has a lot of moving parts. And SPED has a lot of restrictions on what you can and cannot do in there. So before Lori kind of talks actual numbers and what's been going on the last few years, any questions or thoughts just with the overview that Nicole gave, just kind of a SPED in our district?
Do we know why numbers are increasing?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons for it. I think some of it is identifying student needs quicker. I think some of it is definitely could be attributed to some COVID, right? Some lags in experience. Sometimes depending on the student, have they had any chance to be in an educational setting? So I think there's lots of factors there. Our numbers we're not seeing the increase that other places are necessarily, but our numbers have been high historically.
Well, I know when we were at the KASB conference, not this year, but last year, they said that they now include dyslexia. So could it be also a factor that they're including other things that they're diagnosing?
I think some other districts, students are getting a dyslexia diagnosis from a physician, and there's a lot of pressure then that physicians are putting on schools, and parents are wanting those services for their students. We have not seen that here locally, but we do evaluate and find students eligible as having learning disabilities, and dyslexia has always been part of that. But I do think there are some places where that's happening. We haven't seen that impact our numbers locally, though.
Thank you.
Just thinking back over, your tenure in an administrative position, how we've fluidly moved from one initiative to another in a positive way. Like we've evolved to meet the needs of our district and the laws and what we're expected to do. But thinking back, it's just, if you would have made this presentation 15 years ago, it would not have looked like this. So that was really helpful to hear all that. And we've always been high. I mean, 30 years ago, we had a lot of special ed kids, so that's not new for us. We always had more than area districts, and this goes with our district, with where we're located, and who we're serving. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicole. Thanks. All right. So Lori's going to come and kind of talk more in the weeds, so to speak, with where we are financially as an overview of kind of trends that have been seen. This falls into our communication bucket of our strategic plan. So Lori.
All right. We're going to dive into revenues first. And this is unaudited for 24-25, but audited for all the other prior years. Just wanted to make sure that was put out there. So for this year, we have I broke it down into revenue into 4 different categories. The first one is what Nicole talked about, and that was state aid. And that is a reimbursement based on transportation, Medicaid, catastrophic aid, and special ed staffing. So that's the one bucket. The other is federal funds, and then miscellaneous, and lastly is district funds. District funds is what we have to contribute as a district to make up for the difference between the other 3. So if we spend, let's say, $4 million, and those 3 categories want to make up 3.5, the district has to cover the additional expenditures. Does that make sense? Okay. This is a lot of numbers on a small screen, so I got into graphs lately. Okay. ahead and show you one of those. I thought this kind of showed how it's going up like this, up and down, kind of back and forth. As you'll see in 1920, we hit 4.253 million, and we haven't hit that since. That was our highest number, and we're down about 175,000 from that this year. Any questions about the revenue so far? Okay. If you don't,
Remember, revenue, well, we don't know that when she makes the budget.
Right. It's not till-
Yeah.
we don't know it until the end of the year.
Right.
I estimated on one, okay, I published one, because if you don't publish high enough, then you have to republish, and that costs the district money. So I do an expected one, and then throughout the year, I get with Nicole and Martha and say, how close do you think we're gonna be? So you're still surprised sometimes at the end, because it's date, you just don't know. Okay. This is revenue by source as a percentage. And you'll go back to 910, you'll see the state took up 47%. They contributed 47% of the revenue we got in special education. Well, now it's down last year to 45%. The offset of that was our miscellaneous revenue, and that could be from any revenue source, whether it's a reimbursement, a miscellaneous donation, anything like that. So that made up that 2%. Then federal funds went from 22% to 14%, and that was a decrease of 8%. Well, that had to get made up somehow, and the district, you'll notice, went from 31 to 39%. Okay. So that's kind of how the revenue is shifting, or has shifted so far, and that could change in a year. Any questions about revenues, how we get there, where it comes from? Okay, now we'll go into expenses. I've also broken those down into 4 categories. The main one is staffing. That also includes salaries, supplementals, health insurance, work comp, includes all of that. And that was 2.7 million back in 910, and right now it's 3.55 million. The next category is contracted services. For this year, it was 411,000. And transportation and supplies, I kind of just grouped those together because they're about 113,000 for last year. If you go on to the next one, please. This is the same information for expenses, but it's as a percentage. So if you look at 910, we spent 86% of special education on salaries and health insurance. You know, all that kind of combined. This year we're at 87%. So in 15, 16 years, it's only fluctuated 1%. I thought that was very good information about where the money is going. It's going towards people, the majority of it. You know, there's contracted services, which is usually more people. So there's just a little bit going towards supplies. That's kind of all that I had for revenue and expenses. I know it was a lot thrown at you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, where it comes from, what we're spending it on.
When you said a minute ago, back in 1920, I was like, oh my gosh, you went all the way back to the 1900s?
When dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Feels like it, wow.
I have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
and this may, I don't know, but did the state change the way they calculate this last year special education funding? Okay. I thought the legislature was trying, maybe it didn't pass, but I didn't know if that would have any effect on.
I think they're proposing several things that Nicole had mentioned, but yeah. There was some one-time money for sped to help make up the difference, but that was just included in state rates. So that number's already in there.
This is a moving target. And a lot of it's out of our local control. What is in our local control, which you see evidenced, is Hutchinson has made a commitment in every bucket of money that staffing is the most important piece. And that's, you know, evidenced by 85 to, in some cases, 87 this year, percent of all budget goes toward people. Because people are the ones that are making the difference for our kids, right? A program's not gonna make the difference without them. So, in that, It is a hard discussion though, because when you're looking at, I don't know how much I'm gonna have to do an excess cost. I don't know how much I'm gonna have to transition from our general fund. Because when a revenue source says district, that means general fund. That means she's going to transfer money over. So a difference in a few $100,000, obviously, as you transfer over, that's when we start looking at, okay, contingency fund, our savings account, so to speak. Because the contracts we enter into this year in March and April for staff, for students, and then if we have one of these high needs cases that come in, we're gonna do what's right by kids, right? And that means we may have to hire additional staff that we're not going to get, because a starting teacher, that 30,000 example of reimbursement, which last year was less than that, was 29. No starting certified teacher makes 30,000, right? So you're already talking 20,000+ for every staff. But we're a firm believer, just as Ms. Honeywell said, every kid is a gen ed kid first, right? And every kid deserves the best education we can provide. So, with that, today was just about getting in front of your mind that sped, when you say fully fund sped, they don't mean all your sped costs. What you're looking at is that difference between what a regular ed kid cost into providing those extra supports and scaffolds, because every kid gets this. And then some kids might need a little more, on it. So hopefully these kind of financial moments, for a lack of a better word, but Lori, are kind of helping frame a picture and also open some transparency and communication. It was always transparent if you wanted the information. It's just now trying to get it out in a more public platform. Questions from Lori or Nicole? Thank you. All right.
Can I just add to that, we have people call all the time about, do you guys have an alternative school? Do you guys have this? Do you guys have that? A lot of places have a special day school that only serves kids on IEPs. Central has about 57% of their students on IEPs. Districts would love to have a place like that to serve kids. And so I'm looking at the cost if the student does need to be transported to a different facility, $200,000 minimum for that. So the cost, in my opinion anyway, and one of our data shows we fall over that. So
Yes,
And it's such a super cool place to go to school.
yes.
I love being in all of
They're
them.
into public comments. There are public comments. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next is our public comment, and this, I always read this statement. It's a time in our meeting set aside for public comments. The board appreciates patrons taking time to talk with us about USD 409 policies and procedures. The board adheres to certain guidelines during the comments that include the following. Please sign in on the request to appear before the board sheet. The board president does impose a 3-minute time limit, and the board president asks groups with the same interest to appoint a spokesperson. Comments shall be limited to issues and not personalities. This is not an appropriate time or place to make comments of a personal nature about any district employee or anyone else. Persons making comments that violate the privacy rights of the district employee will be asked to terminate their remarks. The board may refer your issue or concern to the administration, and I would love to invite Sadie Stone to the microphone about entry fees USD 409. Thank you, Sadie.
Hi, guys. I just prepared a little speech ready for you guys. My name is Sadie Stone, and I'm coming as a concerned parent and booster club member. As I did last year, I wanted to voice my concern about the entry fee for what it costs for our students to get into 409 extracurricular activities, in particular at the middle school. Right now, the entry fee for Adams Middle School athletic events is $5 for all patrons, including students. And as someone who spends a lot of time and energy and money trying to promote boosterism, school spirit, and community involvement, it's extremely discouraging. And I would love to see us look into options for students to be able to come and support their peers without paying, or at the very least offering a more reasonable cost to them. It's no secret that a huge portion of our students are low income and cannot afford to bring their families to events at this price. For example, My brother, if he brought his family of 4 to come watch my daughter play middle school basketball, it would cost him $30 to get into a game. It's simply too much money for many families to be able to afford. And it's just contradictory to what we're trying to do to get more people involved. It's my belief that we have to do everything we can to encourage students and family involvement in our district, and I just see it as a barrier for many. So I know you guys have a lot of important things to work out, but I would truly appreciate your consideration and working towards a solution for this.
Sadie, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sadie.
Thank you, very good. And something we probably should try. Didn't we talk about this last time? Because some of those fees were set by Asia, by your league.
I will add that I did speak with other parents that went to other league events where students were admitted for free. So I don't believe that potentially, it's just something we need to look into, because like
Yes.
at the very least, other leagues are not abiding by it if it is a quote
Okay,
unquote rule.
okay.
So, something for someone more knowledgeable than me to figure out.
You were awesome.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you, Sadie.
All right, I want to just kind of put this out. This went out to all staff members, but we have our next 2 Cent Tuesday tomorrow. It'll be 3:30 here in the room for all staff members. Starting in January, we'll open up to community. Then I think it will be on the 4th Tuesday of the month, and we'll follow the same format. So anyone, this got emailed to all staff members, that anyone who is interested can absolutely come join us and give me their 2 cents, so to speak. No pennies are required, just open dialogue.
Awesome. Next is the approval of our consent agenda as presented. I would entertain a motion for that, please.
So,
My second. Thank you, Sally, and thank you, Diane. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. It does pass unanimously. Our action items tonight are to appoint a recreation commission board meeting, which we all have before us but a statement from Mr. Matt Reedy, who I can personally vouch for being an outstanding citizen, working well with young people. He's an amazing young man that really donates to a lot of things in our town and is just a real wonderful human being. And he would be a great rec commission board member, in my opinion, but I definitely want to hear from anyone else as well.
Mr. Reedy was the only person who put their name in the hat, so to speak, for this. Jeanette did reach out to their director and just to double check toward the end of last week if they knew of anyone else that was interested. He was going to reach out, but Mr. Reedy's the only one that followed through.
I echo what Carrie had said. It's gathering the community.
And is this Jim Smith's position that we're filling?
Yes.
Okay.
this is his.
Oh, is it?
No, they're not, they're really, his nieces, it would be, his nieces.
Love that.
Yeah. They're all connected. He's from El Dorado, Arkansas, where Shay Sowers was born. Yeah. So, do you need a motion? Yes, please.
Based on the information given by board members, I move that we accept Matt Reeby to fill the vacant position on the Atchison Recreation Commission.
Thank you for the second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. It does pass unanimously. Next for action items is the revision we have on the classified handbook, the PTO language that we discussed for bus drivers, and
There are 3 updates on this. One, it formally updates their pay rates. We already have gone ahead and paid our classified staff at the higher rate. And it's the same as when the negotiated agreement got ratified. In addition to the bereavement leave, that would be very similar to our certified staff members, as well as addition of paid time off for our transportation employees and anyone that has less than 6 hours. So that also includes some child nutrition employees that I did not find out about until today. So, but that absolutely extends to them as well. And we will do that language. So Nicole is here to answer any questions that you have.
Again, we give this plenty of time to review and look over and call and ask for questions. Does anyone have anything that we've talked about this 2 times, so, all right. I'd entertain a motion to, let me go back here, revise the classified handbook as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Sean. And may I have a second? Thanks, Brandon. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you so much. It does pass unanimously. There are no items for discussion and consideration today, so we're going to move right into executive session.
Madam President, I move that the board recess into an executive session to discuss the following subjects: employees' employment performances, employment recommendations. The justification for this executive session is to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under KOMA. The open meeting will resume in the Board of Education Community Room at 7:30, and we'd like to invite Nicole Honeywell and Superintendent Benson.